Hello there, people of the internet. This is a video more so based around giving information to new shooters. So if you're already a seasoned shooter and already a pretty decent shot, then this information might not apply to you. However, if you are new to the shooting game, I have had quite a few people ask me, why can't I hit my target? So I figured I'd go ahead and I'll make a video talking about some of the things that you can do to improve your accuracy pretty easily. Now, I've had a lot of new shooters out on my range, and I've taught a lot of people how to accurately shoot. And whenever it comes to new shooters, they more often than not have the same exact issues. And a lot of people will talk about things like trigger control, and they'll talk about things like proper sight alignment. They'll talk about things like focusing on the front sight. They'll talk about all sorts of stuff. And for the most part, yes, those fundamentals are absolutely things that you want to get hammered into your mind, and you want to basically get so adequate with those skills that they become essentially just muscle memory, and you do them without even thinking about it. However, that takes time and development, and that takes a lot of effort. So I'm going to show you guys kind of a shortcut-ish way that I teach people on how to shoot accurately. This isn't going to make you a marksman by any stretch of the imagination, but you will be able to use your handgun for a practical and defensive setting in the event that you have to use it, especially in the distances that most defensive situations would be taking place at. So I am out here with my P1/P38. This right here is actually a P1 1977 production. And this right here is what I will be using to teach you guys on. So whenever I bring people out here and they have no idea what they're doing, they'll copy what they see in like movies and TV games and whatnot, well, in TV shows and whatnot, and video games. And they'll hold the gun some way like this, or sometimes like this, or they'll do some kind of finagling with the handgun. And normally, whenever I have somebody who's never held a handgun, I actually have like a false handgun that I'll have them use, and I'll have them figure out what grip is most comfortable for them. A lot of times, whenever I talk to other instructors, they teach one specific grip. And they're like, yes, you need to hold this thumb over that thumb, and you need to have them at this angle on, the slide as it rolls, and you have to press with your palm in this direction, because if you don't do that, then you're going to get crappy control and whatnot. And I'm just like, let's go ahead and just skip all of that whenever we're teaching somebody like a brand new person. And whenever it comes to teaching this brand new person, I tell them, get a good grip on the handgun to where you're holding it nice and firm. And then I will see what kind of grip that they have, and I'll make sure that if the gun goes off, it's not going to hurt them or anything. And I'll give suggestions, like if you move your thumb over here, you'll have better stability, and things like that. Or if you press your palm up, like I have had people like hold a gun like this, and I'm like, if you take your palm and press it right there between those fingers, fill in that gap, then you'll, increase your accuracy and stability on the handgun. But these little ticks and tidbits are things that don't require a whole lot of skill to be able to figure out. So after they figure out a somewhat mildly decent grip on their handgun, that's whenever I start teaching them how to be accurate with it. After I teach them proper sight alignment, assuming that I'm not just using a red dot of some kind, after I teach them proper sight alignment, I tell them whenever you pull that trigger, like whenever we're first doing our dry fire exercises, we do not do actual live ammunition, we do dry fire. I tell them whenever you pull that trigger, you want to make sure that the handgun does not move at all. And there's the easiest way to be accurate. Line up your sights, line them up to the target, and I don't care where your thumbs are, I don't care where your finger is, I don't care how it is that you decide to try and make that happen. But if you just make sure that your handgun does not move whenever you pull that trigger, then you'll be tremendously more accurate than you would if you tried focusing on finger placement, and you tried focusing on thumb alignment and palm placement and all this XYZ things that the brand new shooter probably is not going to be able to consistently focus on top of lining up their sights and making accurate shots on target. So I tell them, the skills of holding the handgun, that comes later. But the skills of learning how to pull that trigger in a consistent manner to where the handgun does not move around, that is the easiest way to be able to make accurate shots on target. I don't care if your right thumb is over your left thumb, or your left thumb is over your right thumb. I don't care if you are holding the handgun like this. I know some of the elder guys that we get out there, they insist on the, cup and saucer method whenever it comes to shooting their handguns, and they refuse to hold them like this. And I'm like, I don't care. As long as you can hold that handgun, line up your sights, and pull that trigger nice and slow and effective, and be able to send a round downrange without moving that handgun around whenever you're pulling that trigger, you're going to make your hits on target. Now, the stability of the handgun and how tight you're holding it and whatnot, that matters more with like follow-up shots and things like that. But for the most part, as long as you're holding that handgun steady, and it might take you a little bit longer to reline up your sights if you're having unsteady aim, but for a new shooter, I'm not expecting them to have fast follow-up shots anyway. So this is actually a very simple exercise that, you know, you guys can go out and practice if you're watching this. Just very simple dry fire exercises. If you want to go ahead and focus on your hand grip and whatnot, go right ahead. But I have seen people focus on their hand grip a lot and pull that trigger, and I've watched their gun move around, and I'm like, man, you're gonna have just absolutely awful accuracy with that thing. And then they'll focus on the front sight, and their gun will still move around. And I'm like, man, that is just the worst situation. Focusing on the front sight will make it easier to notice if your handgun is moving around. However, dry fire exercises are the easiest way for you to notice if your handgun is moving around. During actual live fire, yes, focusing on your front sight can be beneficial, because if you pull that trigger and your front sight is no longer in your point of view, you'll actually notice whether or not you pull the front sight left or right. And that's how you're able to get very small groups, because you'll pay attention on keeping the front sight exactly where it needs to be. Now, a couple of easy ways to achieve accuracy. Something like this P1, P38, this is a single action, double action. If you fire things like this in single action, then you actually have a much cleaner, much more crisp trigger pull than you would from a double action pull. Shorter pull will actually be tremendously easier to get a more accurate shot on target, because during the double action, as you pull that trigger, that incredibly long, stiff trigger pull, which also pulls the hammer back, cocks the firearm, and then fires it, that long trigger pull, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of room for error in terms of moving around your gun while you're pulling that trigger. And that is why whenever you have a nice, soft, crisp trigger pull like a single action trigger pull, there's not a whole lot of movement and not a whole lot of pressure necessary, and as a result you can pull that trigger nice and easily. Kevin, what are you doing? I'm over here trying to make videos and you're over here looking all majestic as hell, distracting me. Kevin's my peacock, by the way. I got 4 of them. They're all named Kevin. What are you looking for, buddy? I just fed you. Ah, Kevin. Forever eating. But let's see, what else was I talking about here? The same concept does not necessarily have to come with just handguns. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. You can do the same exact things with rifles. As a matter of fact, I'll come over here and I'll grab me my AR, which just so happens to be sitting right here. Go ahead and just confirm clear for you guys. Yes, that is in fact clear. But whenever you have your rifle, well, rifles, there's a whole other manual of arms. But whenever you have your rifle, and I'm not going to go into the manual of arms for a rifle, as long as you are aiming down your sights, you have them lined up, and you pull that trigger in a way to where the rifle does not move, then you will, assuming that your rifle is accurate and your sights are hung, you will hit your target. A lot of times, whenever I'm teaching new people, I'll break out some kind of light recoiling rifle, like a 223 or something like this, or break out some kind of handgun that's heavy, that's chambered in some kind of light recoiling round. Like, for example, that P38 P1 over there is a pretty heavy handgun, and I'll run some 9mm ammunition through it, and that's really not that harsh of a recoiling round, and people really like the P38. But whether you're rocking handgun or rifle, as long as you focus on not moving that firearm at all whenever it goes bang, you stand a pretty good chance of being pretty damn accurate. Now, you don't want to give a new shooter something that is extremely powerful that might potentially have them develop a flinch of some kind. With the anticipation of recoil, that is more or less where inaccuracy mostly comes from. I have seen a lot of times whenever I'm doing like ball and dummy exercises where people don't know if the gun's going to go off or not, I have seen people pull the trigger and they will flinch and move that gun around slightly one way or the other. And I'm like, did you notice how much you moved that gun? And they're like, yeah, I noticed. So then I'll give it back to them and they'll do it again. Don't know if it's going to go off or not. And they'll make sure they're holding it nice and steady whenever they pull that trigger again. And they're like, yeah, it didn't move that time. I'm like, yep, go ahead and do it again. They don't know if it's going to go off. And bang, suddenly they got themselves a center shot because they didn't move around the gun because they were focused on not moving it. So most of the people that watch this video are probably going to already know this, but I do have some new people that are showing up. And whenever I say, hey, this is probably common knowledge to everyone watching this video, I'll always get like half a dozen people or so in the comments below saying, yeah, well, I've never touched a gun in my entire life, but this is still really good information to know. And I'm like, ah, well, I guess I have some people that are not regular shooters on this channel as well. Hey, welcome to the channel. I hope you're having fun. But that is probably the easiest way to achieve accuracy. Of course, you want a good, stable grip. You want to make sure the gun's not going to fly out of your hands whenever you pull that trigger. There's a lot of things that I can teach in terms of actually gripping your handgun properly to make sure that you got a good, stable platform. But I'm probably going to do that in another video. This is just the easiest way to get decent accuracy, not like marksmanship accuracy, but pretty damn decent accuracy with your handgun to be able to effectively use it. Because I have seen a lot of people struggle with exactly this, like hitting things with handguns at reasonable distances, like within 10 yards. I've seen a lot of people struggle pretty damn hard with that. But whenever I teach them, hey, grab the handgun and focus on it, make sure it doesn't move, then they become tremendously more accurate. It's a very simple concept that I'm sure a lot of us know, but to the people that don't know, whenever they learn it, it's like mind-blowing. It's eye-opening, and they're like, oh my god, I gotta go try that right now. And I have seen some not good shooters become excellent shooters within like minutes just by learning to not move around that handgun. So yeah, I have seen that be a very effective teaching point. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. Kevin's over there. Looks like he's gonna start getting into my stuff soon, so I gotta go stop that from happening. I gotta go get my peacock out of my stuff. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below. Link to all sorts of stuff. Go and go check that out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see y'all in the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.